If you've rested, slowed down, or tried to be gentler, and burnout just keeps coming back, it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because burnout isn't actually a habit problem. It's an identity problem. And until that shifts, the cycle tends to repeat. In this video, I want to help you understand what burnout is actually asking you to change. For a lot of people, this shows up as you take a break, you try to rest, you promise yourself things will be different this time. And for a little while they are. But then slowly, the pressure comes back. The old patterns return. And you find yourself in the same place again. If that feels familiar, you're not alone in it. Hello and welcome. I'm Janet, architect turned creative renewal coach and watercolor artist. At Blueprint to Brushstrokes, I work with mid to late career creative souls, artists, designers, architects, knowledge workers who have experienced burnout, emotional depletion, exhaustion, or repeated creative collapse, and who are ready to stop the cycle. This channel isn't about hustle or constant output. It's about recovery, reconnection, and building a sustainable, joyful creative life without pressure, performance, or continually starting over. If you're starting to recognize yourself in this pattern, that's exactly the stage where gentle, structured support can make a real difference. And I've linked my free Creative Confidence Reflection Guide below, as well as the link to the North Star Mini Reset for gentle, structured support. In the Creative Non Negotiables series, we talked about the structural changes recovery actually needs: time, space, patterns, and rest. But there's a foundation piece underneath all of those that doesn't always get named, because even when people want to change their patterns, they often recreate the same ones anyway. And that's where the idea of identity comes into play. And this is often the part people don't expect. As we talk today, I'll be doing a simple sketch along. Nothing finished, nothing polished. If you'd like to join me, you can sketch something from your space or something remembered. This isn't about output. It's just a way to stay present and reconnect with your creativity in a busy season while we chat. Today, I will share a plein air sketch I did in my garden just a couple of weeks ago when our earliest daffodils were blooming. These are a lovely, very old variety that were planted by the original owners of our house many, many years ago. And they are one of my first signs of spring. Here's the part most burnout recovery advice misses. You don't rebuild the same life because you failed to change your habits. You rebuild it because the identity underneath hasn't shifted yet. And this is the part where a lot of people feel confused or even frustrated, because it feels like, I've tried everything. Why isn't this working? Most burned out creatives carry identities shaped by years, sometimes decades of responsibility and expectations, whether imposed on us by others or ourselves. You might recognize yourself in one or more of these. The reliable one, the capable one, the one who holds everything together, the one who produces value by doing, the one who secretly overcompensates out of a deep fear of failure. And often these feel familiar for a reason. So after burnout, even when the structure loosens temporarily, the identity quietly steps back in and starts rebuilding things exactly the way they were before. Not because you want to suffer or repeat the same patterns or the same mistakes, but because the self that knows how to rest without guilt or shame hasn't yet replaced the self that knows how to do the things the old way. Rest without identity change becomes recuperation for return, not true recovery. It means you rest, but you return to the same system that exhausted you. And this is why it can be so difficult to see while you're inside it. Identity isn't something we consciously choose. It's shaped by what we were rewarded for, what kept us safe, what gave us a sense of belonging, what made us feel worthy, often from a very young age. And burnout often exposes a deeply uncomfortable truth. The version of me that learned how to succeed is also the version that learned how to overdo and burned me out. And that can be a very confronting realization. That doesn't make that version wrong. In many ways, it did exactly what it needed to do. It kept us safe. It kept us feeling a part of our tribe. What this realization does mean is that recovery often requires something deeper, an identity reorientation, not just better habits. This is why new routines don't always hold. New boundaries crumble under pressure, and familiar patterns resurface in overly busy seasons. Maybe temporarily or in little ways at first, but soon, just this once, becomes every time. The structure hasn't changed yet because the system is still being run by an identity built for another season of our life. So, if you find yourself thinking, I know better, why do I keep doing this? That's not evidence of failure. It's evidence that you're starting to see the system more clearly. And that's a different level of clarity than most of us are used to. In fact, it's actually crucial information. It means recovery isn't asking for more control. It's asking for an identity reorientation, one where worth is not earned through exhaustion. Creativity isn't justified or validated by output. Rest isn't preparatory or the last item on your to-do list. It's foundational. For me, it was finding my way back to my true, authentic inner self. Before we close, let's pause briefly for just a moment. If you're sketching, let your hands slow down. Notice the contact between your pencil or brush and the paper. Just notice your breath. When you're ready, you might take some time to reflect in your journal on one or two of these questions, either now or later. Who am I when I'm not carrying everything? What identity takes over when I'm tired or under pressure? What might need to shift so recovery isn't just a pause before return? Try to approach these gently and without judgment and with as much honesty as you can. Some answers may feel uncomfortable or surprising, and that's okay. Honest noticing without judgment tends to offer us far more useful information than polished answers, and it can open a more authentic path towards sustained recovery. And if one of those reflections feels clear for you and you feel comfortable doing so, you're welcome to share it in the comments, but only if that feels comfortable and supportive. If this feels like something you want to stay with a little longer, I've written a companion blog where I explore this more slowly and offer additional prompts. And if these reflections resonate for you, I share longer ones, along with gentle guidance and creative exercises through my mailing list. This has provided a more personal space for us to stay connected and for reciprocal conversations. Both links are below. Burnout recovery isn't about fixing yourself. It's about designing a life and a way of being that can actually sustain you. In the next videos, we'll continue naming the non-negotiables that make recovery durable, honestly, gently, and without pressure. And remember, Recovery doesn't settle through better habits alone. It asks for a quiet reorientation of identity so that the life you're building can actually be sustained. Until next time, wishing you a grace-filled day. May you notice which roles no longer need to work so hard. Protect the parts of you that need care rather than proving, and allow your creative life to take its place within a structure that can truly support and sustain it.